I almost went broke because of a budgeting rule. It sounds dramatic, but it's true. I thought I was doing everything right. Following advice from financial gurus, reading all the right blogs, and even watching those motivational YouTube videos about taking control of your money. But sometimes the rules that are supposed to help you can actually set you up for disaster if you don't see the full picture. A rule meant to build wealth nearly wiped me out. I was following it to the letter, convinced that if I just stuck to the plan, everything would fall into place. But life doesn't always fit into neat little boxes, and neither does your bank account. My bank account stared back at me, a single pathetic number that screamed failure. Every time I checked, it felt like a punch in the gut. I started to dread opening my banking app, knowing I'd see that number, lower than ever, mocking my efforts. I was supposed to be saving, paying off debt, and investing in my future. I had color-coded envelopes, a shiny new notebook for my goals, and a sense of purpose. I thought I was building a foundation for the life I wanted. Instead, I was days away from nothing, all because I followed the so-called perfect 70-20-10 rule. I watched my savings dwindle, my debt payments bounce, and my stress levels skyrocket. The pressure was relentless. The premise seemed so simple. 70% for living expenses, 20% for savings, 10% for debt. It was supposed to be foolproof, a one-size-fits-all solution. I thought, how could I possibly mess this up? On paper, it was flawless. The charts looked beautiful, the numbers added up, and I felt like I finally had a handle on my finances. I even shared my new system with friends, proud of my newfound discipline. I felt confident, ready to take control. For the first time in ages, I believed I could actually get ahead. I was excited to see my savings grow and my debt shrink. The initial excitement was intoxicating. I was motivated, energized, and convinced that this was the answer I'd been searching for. I even started looking forward to budgeting sessions, treating them like a game I could win. But reality had other plans. The first unexpected bill hit, and then another. Suddenly, my perfect percentages didn't add up anymore. I was scrambling to cover costs I hadn't planned for. The neat percentages didn't account for life's chaos, unexpected expenses, social obligations, emergencies. My confidence crumbled fast. I had to say no to friends, skip important events, and watch as my carefully crafted plan unraveled. I realized a simple formula couldn't solve my complex money problems. My life wasn't a math equation, and my budget couldn't predict every twist and turn. I needed flexibility, not rigidity. This is the story of that week, a week that pushed me to my financial and emotional limits. I questioned everything, my choices, my discipline, even my self-worth. I'm sharing this to show you the unvarnished truth. Budgeting isn't always a straight line to success. Sometimes it's a messy, painful process that forces you to confront your deepest fears about money. Following a budget isn't always about pretty graphs and growing savings. It's about facing setbacks, learning from mistakes, and picking yourself up when things go wrong. Sometimes it's about staring into the abyss of an empty bank account and finding the strength to climb back out. It's about resilience, not perfection. This is what happened when I tried the 70-20-10 rule. I learned that no rule can replace understanding your own needs and being honest about your situation, and why it nearly broke me. But it also taught me something invaluable. The best budget is the one that bends, not breaks, when life gets tough. The first day began with a sense of pristine order. My desk was spotless, my mind clear, and for the first time in a long while, I felt in control of my finances. There was a quiet confidence in the air, as if I'd finally cracked the code to managing money. I tracked every cent, downloaded a budgeting app, and watched my transactions populate the screen. Each purchase, each deposit, every little expense was accounted for. It was almost satisfying seeing the numbers line up, knowing exactly where my money was going. 70% for needs, 20% for savings, 10% for debt. The numbers looked clean and manageable. The pie chart I drew made it all seem so simple, so achievable. I felt like I was building a solid foundation, one category at a time. I planned my meals, cut out impulse buys, and assigned every dollar a job. I even sorted cash into envelopes, labeling each one for groceries, rent, and fun. It was meticulous, but it gave me a sense of purpose and control. This wasn't deprivation, it was strategy. I was making choices, not sacrifices. Every decision felt intentional, like I was investing in my future self. I transferred 20% to savings, paid extra on my credit card, and hit all my targets. Each transaction was a small victory, a step closer to financial freedom. I even set up automatic payments and reminders, determined not to miss a single due date. My calendar was filled with check marks and encouraging notes to myself. I felt like a budgeting genius. For once, I was ahead of the game, not scrambling to catch up. As the day ended, I reviewed my spending with pride. Every dollar was accounted for, every goal on track. I felt a sense of accomplishment I hadn't felt in ages. I was under my daily limit, my savings were growing, and my debt was shrinking. The graphs on my phone showed progress, and for the first time, I believed I could really do this. I went to bed free from money anxiety. My mind was quiet, my heart steady. I slept soundly, convinced that I was finally on the right path. The path forward seemed clear. I imagined a future where money stress was a thing of the past, where I could focus on living, not just surviving. I was completely unaware I was walking into a financial ambush. The unopened bills on the table were just background noise, easily ignored in my newfound optimism. The calm of day one was deceptive. Beneath the surface, deadlines and due dates were quietly ticking closer, waiting to disrupt my peace. The storm was gathering just over the horizon. I was blissfully ignorant, wrapped in the illusion of control, and that would cost me. The real test was yet to come, and I had no idea how quickly things could change. Day 2 dawned with the same confidence. Tracking my spending became a game. I packed lunch, skipped the cafe, and felt victorious with every dollar saved. The app was my digital cheerleader. The day was uneventful: work, home, a pre-planned dinner. My bank account became a tool, not a source of fear. I started daydreaming about the future: emergency fund, debt-free date. The 70-20-10 rule felt like a time machine to security. I was so focused on the destination I ignored the road ahead. 2 days of perfect adherence made me feel invincible. The system seemed foolproof. But this initial ease was the most dangerous part. The higher I climbed, the more devastating the fall would be. The quiet rhythm was just the deep breath before the plunge. Day 3. Cracks appeared in my financial fortress. My best friend invited me to an expensive dinner to celebrate a promotion. My budget had no room for a spontaneous, pricey night out. The fear of missing out was real. I imagined my friends celebrating without me while I ate my pre-planned meal at home. The internal debate was brutal: fun now or stick to the plan. In the end, I compromised: one drink, then home. The awkwardness was palpable. I felt cheap and left out. The 70-20-10 rule saved me money but cost me a piece of my social life. I began to wonder if the price was too high. Was I becoming the boring, responsible friend? The resentment started to build. This wasn't just about money anymore, it was about identity, and the struggle was just beginning. Day 4, disaster struck. My car broke down. The repair, $450. That was more than half my needs budget for the month. My beautiful system shattered. Panic set in as I realized my needs category was obliterated. The only money left was in my savings. The irony was crushing. My future savings devoured by my present emergency. I paid with my credit card, knowing I'd have to drain my savings to cover it. All my careful planning felt pointless. One emergency wiped out weeks of discipline. The 70-20-10 rule felt like a cruel joke. Day 5 was my breaking point. The car repair wiped out my buffer and my savings. My bank account was dangerously low. The temptation to quit was overwhelming. I watched coworkers go out to lunch while I ate a sad sandwich at my desk. I felt punished for trying to be responsible. Then, a $15 subscription renewal and a $25 credit card payment both hit. I couldn't afford both. The choice: instant gratification or a step toward financial health. Quitting was easy, but if I quit now, the emergency wins. My old habits win. And I was tired of losing. In that moment, something shifted. The 70-20-10 rule hadn't caused my problems, it revealed them. I had no buffer. One emergency sent me tumbling. I canceled the subscription and paid the credit card. It was a small act, but it felt monumental. I was choosing my future over my present. The car repair wasn't a failure, it was a data point. My top priority had to be a real emergency fund. The budget was just a framework. I needed to build the house. I started cutting expenses, looking for ways to earn extra income. The crisis hadn't broken me, it had forged me. I was no longer just following a rule. I was building a system for my real life. The despair turned into determination. I was ready to fight back. By the final day, I was a different person. I'd faced social pressure, a financial emergency, and the urge to quit. But I survived, and started to thrive. Day 7 was about empowerment, not restriction. My habits changed. I checked prices, questioned every purchase. The mental accounting became second nature. The calm was now based on resilience, not ignorance. I had a plan to rebuild. The 70-20-10 rule became a flexible guide, not a prison. The car emergency, once a catastrophe, was a gift. It forced me to confront my financial fragility. I walked through the fire and came out refined. This was my new beginning. So what were the final results? After a week of tracking every dollar, every receipt, and every unexpected expense, I sat down to tally it all up. The numbers stared back at me, cold and honest, and I braced myself for the truth. On paper, I failed. My savings shrank, my debt didn't drop as planned, the spreadsheet didn't lie. I had hoped for a neat, upward trend, but instead I saw setbacks and shortfalls. It was hard not to feel defeated, seeing the gap between my intentions and reality. But the real profit was the education I gained. Every mistake, every miscalculation taught me something new about my habits and my priorities. I realized that budgeting isn't just about the numbers, it's about understanding yourself, your triggers, and your values. Despite the emergency, I saved $75 by cutting back. That meant saying no to takeout, skipping a coffee run, and finding creative ways to stretch what I had. It wasn't easy, but it showed me that small changes add up, even when life throws you a curveball. I paid $25 toward my credit card, when it would have been easy to skip it. That payment felt like a tiny victory, a reminder that progress isn't always dramatic, but it's always worth celebrating. Even when the numbers are small, the discipline matters. The biggest change was my mindset. I stopped seeing budgeting as punishment and started seeing it as a tool for freedom. I learned to forgive myself for slip-ups and to focus on what I could control, not just what I couldn't. I ended the week with a plan: build a real emergency fund, cut expenses, and find new income streams. I wrote down specific steps, like automating savings and researching side gigs so I wouldn't lose momentum once the week was over. The contrast between day 1 and day 7 was stark. I started the week anxious and overwhelmed, but by the end I felt lighter, more hopeful, and more in control. The journey wasn't perfect, but the progress was real. I started as a hopeful amateur, following a rule blindly. I thought if I just stuck to the formula, everything would fall into place. But life isn't that simple, and neither is money. I ended as a realist, knowing a budget must adapt to life's chaos. Flexibility became my new rule. I learned that it's okay to adjust, to pivot, and to give yourself grace when things don't go as planned. Financial security isn't about one perfect week, it's about resilience. It's about building habits that last, and making choices that support your goals, even when it's tough. It's about getting knocked down and getting back up. Every setback is a lesson, and every lesson makes you stronger. The real win is refusing to give up no matter how many times you stumble. That feeling of control is worth more than any amount of money. When you know where your money is going, you feel empowered. You start to believe that change is possible, and that you're capable of making it happen. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, I get it, I was there. The stress, the uncertainty, the fear of one unexpected bill, it's overwhelming, but you're not alone, and you're not powerless. This week almost broke me, but instead it built me. It forced me to confront my habits, to get honest about my priorities, and to believe that small steps matter. Try the 70-20-10 rule or any budget. The point isn't perfection, it's progress. Start where you are, use what you have, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. You might fail, but you'll learn, grow, and take the first step. Every attempt brings you closer to understanding your money and yourself. The journey is long, but every day you try, you're moving forward. If I can do it, so can you. Your story doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful. Start today, and let your progress surprise you.